All right, so we actually have a lot to cover today. Today, we are going to be focused on the upcoming March 31st NMSP compliance score deadline. As of today, we are approximately 3 weeks away from this deadline. And so my goal is to make sure that we are focused on what's important right now. Last month, we were all focused on the February 28th dues delinquency deadline. Which included making sure that your unpaid members was inactivated. And we also required the associations to submit their dues payment through NAR's e-commerce system. On top of that, we also had NAR's Code of Ethics deadline as well. So things really started to pick up. And so I expect us all to be extremely busy over the next few weeks. So our focus for the next few weeks is going to be your NMSP scores. Now, for our new AEs and membership staff, when we talk about compliance, we are basically talking about the enforcement of NAR's variable dues. And when we are talking about variable dues, that includes managing the BCT. And managing the BCT consists of your brokers, agents, financial records, and also deadlines. Currently, we have 3 compliance checkpoints: March 31st, August 31st, and December 31st. And what this means is all local associations must have an NMSP compliance score of 97% or higher at each checkpoint. Now, failure to meet the compliance objective could result in the AE and their board president attending a hearing at the C.A.R. business meetings. Now, I can tell you, nobody wants to attend a hearing, right? Now, I will say last year, it was very close. We had some associations that just barely made it. Now, I would love to see all associations at 97% or higher before the deadline. Usually, on the day of the deadline, we actually provide an update to our legal department throughout the day just to let them know who is still out of compliance, just so that they are aware. I will say that we also have a strong track record of making sure all of the associations are compliant by the deadline, but we definitely need your help. With that said, we are expecting all local associations to monitor your NMSP scores all the way up until the deadline. You want to make sure that your NMSP score is at 97% or higher on March 31st at 5 p.m. Now, for our new AEs and membership staff, because you are new to this process, today I'm just going to give you the simplified version of the variable dues formula. We are going to just quickly cover the who, what, and why of the dues formula. I will include the complete version of the variable dues simplified when we send out the recording. So I'm going to go out of order because I think we have to first establish the what the NAR variable dues formula is all about, right? Well, the NAR variable dues formula refers to the dues obligation of the designated realtor, or DR. The DR is responsible for all licensees in the firm. Now, under NAR's mandatory policy, designated realtors are responsible for paying his, her local, state, and national membership dues, in addition to a non-member assessment fee for each non-member salesperson, also known as NMSP, who are licensed under that DR. This includes all licensees affiliated with the firm, which includes agents under the DR's license and agents under the corporate license. Now, in order for the DR to maintain membership at all 3 levels of the organization, the DR is required to pay his or her dues obligation, which also includes a non-member salesperson fee to prevent their membership from being inactivated. So, who is responsible for the enforcement of the NAR variable dues formula? Well, since membership is first established through the local association is responsible for the enforcement of the NAR variable dues formula. This means the local association must bill all designated realtors who are primary members of their association for annual membership dues, which include C.A.R., N.A.R., and local dues, in addition to an assessment for each NMSP under the DR's firm. And last, let's talk about the why. Why is the NAR variable dues enforcement important? Well, the variable dues formula was created to ensure fairness across the board. The premise is that every agent in a firm benefits from the designated realtors membership in the Association of Realtors, and therefore the DR's dues should include a fee for the number of agents in the firm that are not members of the National Association of Realtors. Now, the broker compliance tool was created to help the associations manage the variable dues process, but also to ensure that each association is enforcing the variable dues formula. So what does managing the DR and his agents look like? Again, the DR's primary association is responsible for enforcing the NAR variable dues. And so the primary association is responsible for billing the designated realtor for non-member fees. They are the ones that send out letters and emails regarding NMSPs, LIFROs, and MLOs. They are also in charge of setting up LIFRO offices in NERDs as well. Now, if the LIFRO office has already been set up by another association, then you should not duplicate the office. You should use the office that already exists in the system. Office records can be shared between local associations. So that's important to remember. The office is really not a member. The office is just simply a location. The DR's primary association is also in charge of collecting signed LIFRO certification forms. They're also in charge of collecting MLO certification forms from the DR on an annual basis. These forms are for your records only, so C.A.R. will only request a copy of the certification form if we are conducting an audit. You also want to make sure that your MLOs qualify for the exemption. And the way that you confirm that they qualify is by making sure they have the MLO endorsement on their DRE record. The primary association is also in charge of creating LIFRO and MLO records in M1 for each licensee, but you only create the record if the record doesn't exist in M1. Now, if the record already exists in M1, the local association just needs to do a POE transfer if the record is under another association, and then you just attach the record to the LIFRO office. And last, the DR's primary association is responsible for broker associates and their agents that are affiliated with the firm. One of the things that I think is important to understand is the data flow from the local AOR to C.A.R., right? Well, what happens after your records are uploaded to M1? Well, that data that we are receiving from the local associations include financial records, member and office adds and changes, membership dues payments, REF and HAF payments through NAR's e-commerce system. And then you have those records that don't upload to M1 because of data errors or there's an issue in the upload process. And so with all this data flowing from the local association to C.A.R., we sometimes wonder, why are there records in M1 that are not on the BCT, right? And the answer to that question is there are leaks in the process. These are issues that must either be resolved by the local association or C.A.R. to complete the process successfully. So what are some of the leaks that associations have to resolve? Well, payment records in your memberships, you have the membership payment records in your membership system, but it did not upload to M1 successfully. Or the payment type code did not contain one of the C.A.R. approved codes, or the payment amount was incorrect, or the association combined C.A.R. and REF payments together, or the record was uploaded with the 2021 billing year instead of 2022, or the member pays dues and then transfers to another association before the association could upload the financial record to M1, which causes all kinds of issues, right? And so those are just some of the issues that the associations have to resolve. But what are some of the issues that C.A.R. have to deal with? Well, the DRE data is only updated once a week, or maybe we didn't receive the weekly file from DRE. The technical issues that we are faced with at times include the BCT resetting the NMSPs to the beginning of the 60-day grace period. And it's funny how that always seems to happen leading up to a deadline. I know some of the associations are happy when it happens, but it always seems to happen leading up to a deadline. The other technical issue that we are faced with is not receiving the financial record from M1. We can see the record is in M1 correctly, but for whatever reason, during our download process from M1 to our system, we missed some records. Now, today, we are able to resolve this by running a separate process to identify the missing records. And once we identify those records, we can then add them to a queue to get reprocessed. Now, this is going to, actually, we just started this process, so we're going to be running this process on a weekly basis. So again, these are just some of the leaks in the data process that we have to manage. We are looking for a perfect process, but we are not there yet. Almost, but we're just not there yet. So what should local associations be focused on today leading up to the deadline? Well, local associations should be focused on the NMSPs that are in the delinquent section. You can access your delinquent records from 3 different sections on the BCT. Number 1, you can click the count next to total NMSP count. Number 2, you can click the count that is located under the NMSP score. And number 3, you can click the red delinquent box to display your records. By clicking any one of those options, you can actually display your list of delinquent NMSPs. So the question is, what should you do to resolve your delinquent issues, right? Well, the first step in the process is to get a communication out to your brokers regarding their delinquent agents. The brokers will have to decide if her agents will either join as a realtor member or become a LIFRO, or is the broker going to pay the non-member fee? Or the last option is the broker going to remove the agent's license? So just so you know, the process for removing or dropping a salesperson license is a simple task for the broker. They can actually take care of this on DRE's website under e-licensing within minutes. However, if the agent has a restricted license, then the broker will have to mail the paperwork into DRE, which can definitely take months. And so in those cases, we would actually add the licensee to the DRE exemption list so that the record is no longer impacting your NMSP score. Now, C.A.R. created a number of exemptions that is available for members that meet the specific qualifications. The COM exemption. This exemption is for commercial agents that work in an office that is located outside of the local board's jurisdiction, and it's not the broker's main office that he or she works out of. The TRM exemption is used for licensees that paid their dues, but their status is now suspended, inactive, or terminated. For example, we have members that paid 2022 dues that was inactivated for not completing the ethics requirement. Once we add the TRM exemption to the member's record, these records will no longer have a negative impact on your NMSP score. The SSC exemption. This exemption is used for licensees that are realtor members in Arizona, Nevada, or Oregon who choose not to be a member in California. And then last, the DRE exemption. This exemption is used when a broker can't remove an agent's license using e-license on DRE's website, and they have to mail in the release forms. This exemption is also used leading up to a compliance deadline. For example, an agent's license is now showing licensed MBA on DRE, and the record is impacting your NMSP score. You want to make sure when you come across that issue that you confirm that the member's license status is NBA on the website. And then you will send an email to Nick or myself, and we will add those members to the DRE exemption. So we actually receive a ton of emails on a daily basis regarding the financial records in M1. So let's talk about how to confirm if your financial record uploaded to M1 successfully. First, you want to go to NAR's website, which is nar.m1.realtor. You will enter the member's NERDS ID number or license number, and you want to make sure you click the drop-down menu and select member. From here, you will click the member's NERDS ID number. Next, you will scroll down and click member dues payment, and this will expand the field. Now, in order to determine if the financial record was uploaded correctly, you first have to know the payment type codes and payment amounts that C.A.R. will accept, right? Well, C.A.R. will accept the following payment type codes. Now, STAT is the required payment type code, but our system will also accept STATE, CDU, C.A.R. dues, C.A.R., 22 CDU, and 22 C.A.R. As you can see, this payment type is STAT, and so this is a payment type that we would accept. So also important is making sure the payment amount is correct. So the payment amount must be one of the following. And in order for the record to process successfully on our end, you have to make sure that you enter the correct payment amount that C.A.R. is expecting from the local association. So just as a reminder, the prorated dues amount that you see is actually for new members only. Renewing members pay $184, and new members have the benefit of paying the prorated dues amount. So again, these are the payment amounts that C.A.R. will accept. So a financial record is entered correctly when the payment type code is correct, the billing year is correct, and the payment amount is correct. In this example, the financial record was uploaded with the correct payment type code, billing year, and payment amount. This means our finance team should be able to process the record successfully on our end, and most importantly, it should show paid on the BCT. Now, if you have records where you have confirmed on M1 that the financial record was uploaded to M1 correctly, but the member still shows unpaid on the BCT, please send an email to accounting@car.org and include the member's name and NERDS ID number. Our finance team can determine if they had an issue processing the record, or they can confirm if they received the record, but it's in a pending status. So that's important to remember. I know it seems like membership does everything, but our finance team is actually in charge of monitoring and processing the financial records from M1. So for those associations that manually add financial records to M1, what you want to do is did I pass the screen? All right, we're good. So under member dues payments, you want to click add dues payment. And if you are adding a financial record for a non-member, you will see that there is no payment type for non-member. And so in this case, you will select STAT for the payment type code when entering the financial records for your non-members. It will still process correctly on our end because our system is looking at the member type. And in this case, the member type would be N for non-member. So we would process this record as a non-member payment. All right, so there's something that I want to bring to your attention that you may or may not be aware of, and it's regarding managing NMSPs that are hanging their license under a corporation with multiple designated officers that are not primary at the same association. I want you to see how these records impact multiple associations BCT. In this example, we have a corporation with 2 designated officers. The corporation is Compass, and the 2 officers is Kathy Maringer, who is primary with Conejo, and Samuel Kramer, who is primary with Greater LA. We have a realtor member whose license is hanging under their corporation, who is now inactive. As you know, inactive realtor members automatically become non-members, right? As you can see, this licensee is now appearing on Conejo's BCT and Greater LA's BCT. The reason why this happens is because our system is just not sophisticated enough to determine which one of the designated officers is responsible. So in order to resolve this issue, both associations have to work together by reaching out to their respective brokers to determine who is responsible for this licensee. Once they identify the broker that is responsible, then the broker's local association will need to take ownership of that record by making the record an active non-member. And once that happens, the licensee will then only appear on one BCT report. So if you ever come across an issue similar to this, you now have an idea on how to resolve it. And just so you know, we are always here to assist you if you come across these issues and you have questions. So I wanted to take a few minutes and just go over a calendar that shows you what you can expect leading up to the March 31st deadline. So here's what's important to know. C.A.R. receives an updated DRE file every Friday, and the BCT is updated on Monday at 10 a.m. with Friday's DRE file. Also, Wednesdays is the last day for brokers to get their changes into DRE in order for those changes to be included in the file that we receive on Friday. So if you have a broker that has dropped an agent's license on Thursday, and now you go to the DRE and you can see the license is showing licensed MBA, because they made that change on Thursday, it will not be included in the file that we receive on Friday, which means when we update the BCT on Monday, that agent will still appear on your BCT. And in those cases, especially leading up to a compliance deadline, we will add those members to the DRE exemption. So that's just something that you want to keep in mind. Also, Thursday, March 17th, we will be sending out the emails regarding the preliminary NMSP scores to the AEs. And then on Thursday, March 24th, we will be sending out another preliminary NMSP score notification to the association board presidents. And then what's highlighted in red, March 31st, is the NMSP compliance score deadline, and we are expecting all local associations to be compliant before March 31st. All right, and so now I am available to answer any questions that you might have.
Keismond, can we start with Jenny Dodson? She had a question about drop downs. Jenny, can you unmute?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah,
Hi.
hi. So I've been having to unfortunately manually enter a whole lot of them because our system is messed up.
Okay.
But what I noticed is there's no drop down to enter the local dues for 2022.
Got it. So,
When the ones that do sync up and actually import from our system shows up the local, but not when we manually enter.
all right. So I think we'll most likely have to reach out to NAR to figure out why that's happening. I believe when you are setting up your financials in e-commerce, it allows you to add the C.A.R. dues. The NAR dues is automatically in the system, and then it allows you to set up your local dues. So we just need to make sure the local dues is available in the system. If it's not, then we can just add it so that way it's included in the drop down.
Yeah.
Okay, Keismond, we have a question from Cindy. Do you know where AEs can find the LIFRO and MLO certification form that they need to sign?
Absolutely. That information is actually, I'm kind of scared to go out of the screen and go to C.A.R.org. But that information is actually on C.A.R.org under the local association page. And then it's under, you know what, I'm not going to even, let me see if I can show you exactly where that information is. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect, okay. So it's going to be located under AE Resources, Manage Your Association, Local AOR Membership Staff Resource page. And then you'll scroll down and you have the 2022 LIFRO certification forms, the 2022 MLO certification forms. We also have additional information for 2022 regarding the annual dues billing. We also have the realtor application form located on this page. But again, most importantly, your LIFRO and MLO information can be found on this page.
Thanks, Keismond. Next question is from Stella. What do they do if a broker doesn't respond to any emails about their agents that have not paid their dues or joined an association?
So it's definitely important to get a final communication out to the broker. You never want to inactivate a broker and their agents without a final communication. That covers you. And so if the broker is not responding, once you send out that communication with a deadline, which is also important, if you go past the deadline, then at that point, you want to make sure that you inactivate the broker, especially leading up to a compliance deadline, because you don't want those records to have an impact on your score.
Perfect. Thanks, Keismond. Next question comes from Rosemary. How long does it take for the dues to process if they were paid in January of 22 and paid by a credit card?
Wow, that's a great question. So it should take 48 to 72 hours from the time that it's added to M1 for us to process it and get it updated on the BCT. If you have members that are still showing paid on M1, but they're showing unpaid on the BCT and they paid back in, January, February, you want to make sure you send an email to accounting@car.org. You can also CC Nick and myself. because we do want to make sure that you get a response back from our accounting department. And so if you haven't received a response, at least we can step in and assist as well. But our finance team is responsible for monitoring the financial records that are coming from M1. They're also responsible for processing those records. Now, I will say there are times where when they're processing those financial records, it may end up in an exception report, meaning something was wrong with that record. And so they do have to go in and research the reason why that record did not process successfully. But it is important for you to hear back from someone from our finance team as to why those records didn't process successfully. So please send an email to accounting@CAR.org and CC Nick and I, so we can also assist in the research process.
Awesome. Thanks, Keismond. Dawn would like you to please review how to enter the payments in M1 for brokers who pay the VDF for their agents.
All right.
I have examples, Keismond, if you want the NERDS IDs.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. I'll take a NERDS ID number.
Okay, the agent is Leah Moss 207013666.
All right. I don't like those last three numbers.
I don't either. I apologize for not having my camera. I'm having some issues.
No, it's all good. All right, so I'm just going to pull this record up in M1.
And to give you some background, I did enter them in Rapatoni yesterday.
Okay.
And the way I did it was under Leah's account. I charged it under her account, but the incurring member I did as her broker. But I'm not sure, because it obviously hasn't transferred over yet. I'm not sure if I did that correctly.
Yeah, so if the payment is going to go under the broker's record, the incurring member has to be the non-member's NERDS ID number.
Oh, okay, so I did it backwards.
Yeah, because our system does not have a way, it doesn't know who the payment is for. It just sees that your broker made a payment, but it doesn't know who to tie that payment to, if that makes sense.
It does. So am I starting with the broker and then adding the agent or the non-members NERDS ID in there, or am I doing it the other way around?
So in this case, so this is actually the broker's due. So if you was placing the non-member payment under the broker, the incurring member ID what should reflect the non-member's NERDS ID. And so when we pull the financial record, we know that even though this payment is under the broker, we know to apply the payment to the non-member based on the incurring member ID, which is the non-member. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I do have one other twist. The broker of record in the DRE is actually a broker associate, but in the DRE, it's under TED Enterprises, under Mitchell Stever is the broker.
Okay.
So he is the broker of record for Leah Moss, but obviously he is an agent under Stephen Oakes.
Right.
So am I still putting it under Stephen Oakes as the broker, or under Mitchell Stever, since Mitchell Stever's the one that paid?
That's a great question.
We can talk offline if we need to,
because
I know this.
I don't want to confuse anyone. And
yeah, I know. That's okay. That's fine. I'll talk to you offline then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Dawn.
Okay, Keismond, I'm going to ask Celeste to please unmute herself to ask this question because it's a little more complex and multi-part. Celeste, can you unmute?
Yes, hi. Hi, Keismond. I receive a lot of questions from brokers and salespeople on how they can get the MLO endorsement on their DRE license. So I don't know if you have a phone number or a website that they can call. And I also, a lot of times they have the MLO endorsement, but when you click on it,
Mhm.
then it will say authorized to conduct business is no. But then I have to let them know that as well. So I don't know if you have information on that to where I can, let them know.
Yeah, I think we should definitely take this offline because I'm not sure I understand the issue completely.
Okay, sure.
I just, yep, I apologize. I just want to make sure that, if I give an answer, I want it to be the correct answer and I don't want to confuse anyone.
Okay, okay.
If we take this offline, then I can actually research the records. I can click on, the NMLS endorsement to see what appears, and then we can just go from there.
Okay, thank you, Keismond.
Keismond, I'm going to ask Kathy Hinman to unmute. She's got a question kind of pertaining to the last AM 101 that we did, but probably something that you could answer. Kathy, can you unmute?
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, I know we addressed this at the last one-on-one session about when a member wants to join and yet the broker is a primary somewhere else and they are too, they want to join as a secondary. We know when they join as a primary, the broker can write a letter and authorize them to be a designated realtor. That's one way around it. But apparently there was some way we could connect them to an office. We just had another one come in. And we created an office for that person because they definitively want to become a secondary member here, contiguous to the member board association they're at. And the broker is not a member here. And so we created the office and just temporarily put it 9999 in the broker, responsible broker. What do we do? How do we hadn't gotten an answer on that.
Yeah, so if you're setting up an office, you definitely want to make sure that in the responsible member is the correct responsible member. And so you're saying in this case, the broker is not a member of your association.
Correct.
And so you're trying to place an agent in an office where the broker is not a member, but you want to make sure that the responsible member in that field is the correct one. So I guess my question is, did the broker sign the authorization form?
Yes.
Okay. If he signed the authorization form, then in that case, that individual is the responsible DR for that office.
And they won't, okay, and they won't be, it won't cause a financial, it won't cause some tick in the system that says we owe for that broker.
No.
Okay, because that's local, that's right. They've already paid their state and national.
Yeah.
Okay, so that answers our question. I haven't tried putting the broker's number in there to see if so even in our Rapatoni system, if the broker is not in our system as an agent, we can still put that NERDS number in as a responsible broker in the office.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And then Keismond, Michelle has a question. Michelle, I'm not sure that I understand this, but the question is, if the MSP dues were entered under NMSP, should we reverse the dues and re-enter under the DR?
No.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, the way you have it set up is correct. So the NMSP fee can appear under the non-members record, or it can appear under the broker's record. I will say it's a lot easier for our finance team to process the record when it's under the NMSP fee. I'm sorry, when it's under the NMSP's record. But both options are available.
Perfect, thank you. Then from Caitlin, can the responsible member sign lift rows for the broker?
Yes. Yes, so, and you're referring to, All right, so let me just think about this. So you're saying that the broker designated someone to operate as the DR. And if that's the case, that DR has the ability or has been given the rights to sign the LIFRO certification forms for LIFRO agents. Did that answer the question? Who was that from, Peggy?
From Caitlin.
Oh, Caitlin, did that answer your question?
Maybe she can't unmute.
Okay.
Those are the only questions we have in the chat. So I'd say let's open it up. If anyone has a question, you can just unmute yourself and ask Keismond. Or raise your hand, either way. So Caitlin tried unmuting, but it didn't work. So I guess you did answer her question. Okay, Robin has a question. If the dues payment was entered on the broker's record and again the NMSP record, should we reverse the entry on the broker's record?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm just going to say it's not necessary because we're only going to process one of those records. If it's a easy task for you to reverse it, then you want to reverse it, but it's not going to have an impact on anything. The only thing we're pulling from the M1 system is the financial record. And so if you reverse it, it's just going to be a reversal in the M1 system. It's not going to be a reversal in our membership system.
Thanks, Keismond. Manny would like to know how you can determine if a license is restricted.
Oh, I wish I had an example. So on the member's license status, it usually says license. And then in parentheses, right after you see license, it will say restricted. So that's how you can tell.
Perfect. Anybody else? It does not look like it. So with that, I would like to thank Keismond for a really informative training and let all of you know that all of you and everybody who registered will get a follow-up email tomorrow with links to everything and the meeting materials and all of that so that you can go over this vast amount of information again and potentially share it with your colleagues. So thanks to all of you for attending, and Keismond, thanks again for another great training.
Thank you, everybody.